The price of empire. The transmission ended, and General Ilara Voss stood motionless before the darkened screen. For 30 seconds, she did not breathe. The bridge of the EDF Retribution fell silent, every officer frozen at their station, eyes averted from their commander. Even the ship's ambient systems seemed to quiet, as if the vessel itself understood the gravity of what they had just witnessed. Dr. Marcus Voss, renowned xenobiologist, diplomat, and husband to Earth's most decorated military commander, was dead. Executed by the Arcturus Empire for alleged espionage, a public spectacle broadcast across all galactic channels. General, her second-in-command, Commander Reyes, finally broke the silence. "I'm so. Contact Earth Command," Ilara said, her voice unnaturally steady. Her steel-gray eyes remained fixed on the blank screen. "Inform them that the diplomatic approach has failed." Reyes hesitated. "Ma'am, protocol dictates that in situations involving personal conflict of interest, the Empire executed a civilian researcher on fabricated charges, Commander." General Voss turned, her movements precise and controlled. "They did so knowing exactly who he was to me. This wasn't just an execution. It was a message." At 45, Ilara Voss had spent 27 years in Earth's Defense Force. She had risen through the ranks during the Mars insurrection, commanded the successful defense during the Proxima incursion, and negotiated the Titan Accords that brought peace to the outer colonies. Her tactical brilliance was legendary. Every strategy she developed was now standard teaching at the military academy. Soldiers would follow her into the void without question, and enemy forces would surrender at the mere rumor of her arrival in a system. And the Arcturus Empire had just killed her husband. The transmission originated from the imperial capital. General, Lieutenant Chen reported from her console. Dr. Voss was being held at the Castellan Citadel. 3 warships accompanied his research vessel, said Commander Reyes. "How did they even capture him?" "They didn't capture his ship," Ilara replied. "They invited it." Marcus received a distress signal from a scientific outpost. It was a trap. She had studied the Imperial tactics enough to recognize their signature. "Status of our fleet: 7 battle cruisers in formation, ma'am. The Indomitable, Sovereign, and Relentless are 20 hours out. The colony defense fleets are on standby." Ilara nodded, taking her command seat. "Establish a secure line to Admiral Joe. Eyes only." As the communications officer worked, Ilara pulled a small metal object from her pocket, a simple platinum band. Marcus had insisted on physical wedding rings, an ancient tradition rarely observed in the 22nd century. "Humans need tangible reminders," he told her, "of the promises we make to each other." Now she slipped it onto her finger, where it belonged. Admiral Joe's weathered face appeared on her private screen. "Ilara," he said, dispensing with formalities, "I've just received the report. The President is preparing a formal condemnation of the Empire's actions." "We're past condemnations, Admiral," Ilara said. "The Empire has been encroaching on our territories for years. They've been arming insurgents in our colonies, disrupting our trade routes, and probing our defenses. They executed Marcus to gauge our response. If we show weakness now, they'll push further." The Admiral's expression remained impassive, but concern flickered in his eyes. "What are you proposing, General?" "Implementation of War Plan Obsidian." Zhou's composure broke. That plan was developed as a theoretical exercise, not as a viable military strategy. It would require committing nearly 70% of our fleet. "It will work." Ilara's voice left no room for doubt. "The Empire believes they understand human psychology. They think Marcus's execution will destabilize me, compromise my judgment. They've made a fatal miscalculation." The Admiral studied her for a long moment. "The Security Council will need convincing." "Then convince them," Ilara said. "Because in 24 hours, I'm taking this fleet into Empire territory, with or without authorization." The call ended. Ilara turned to her bridge crew, who straightened in attention. The Empire believes they've seen humanity's military capability during the border skirmishes. She addressed them. They've only seen what I wanted them to see. Now they'll learn what we're truly capable of. Within hours, authorization came. War Plan Obsidian was greenlit, a comprehensive strategy Ilara had developed years ago after first encountering the Arcturian military doctrine. It exploited weaknesses in their command structure, their over-reliance on central authority, and their cultural inability to adapt to asymmetric warfare. Ilara spent the night in her quarters reviewing tactical displays. She didn't sleep. Memories of Marcus invaded every quiet moment. His gentle laugh, his boundless curiosity about alien cultures, his unwavering support of her career. They had met during the aftermath of the Europa crisis, where he treated refugees while she secured the station. He never flinched from the dangers of her profession, and she had promised him one thing above all: protection. She had failed. As Earth's fleet assembled, intelligence reported that the Empire was celebrating. Their propaganda portrayed Marcus's execution as a triumph, a demonstration that humans were not untouchable. In the imperial capital, military parades commemorated their victory over Earth's spy network. They had no idea what was coming. 72 hours after Marcus's execution, the EDF Retribution led 30 warships through a precisely calculated FTL jump into the heart of the Arcturus Empire's defense network. They emerged directly above Outpost Thraxa, the Empire's most important military installation outside their home system. All ships in position, General, Commander Rice reported. Imperial defenses are scrambling, but they're confused. They don't understand how we bypassed their early warning system. Marcus mapped their sensor network during his previous diplomatic missions, Ilara said. He always noticed details others missed. She stood at the tactical display. Begin the assault. Pattern Kappa 7. The battle that followed wasn't just a military engagement, it was a statement. Earth's fleet executed a series of maneuvers that dismantled the Imperial defenses with surgical precision. Ilara had studied their tactics for years, identified their protocols and contingencies. For every Imperial countermeasure, she had already calculated 3 responses. Their flagship is attempting to retreat, Lieutenant Chen announced. They're calling for reinforcements. Let them, Ilara replied. I want their leaders to witness this. I want them to understand exactly what they've provoked. The outpost fell in less than 6 hours. Not a single Earth vessel was lost, as Imperial survivors were gathered, and their wounded treated. Ilara insisted on adhering to all interstellar conventions regarding prisoners of war. She recorded a message to be broadcast on all Imperial frequencies. To the leadership of the Arcturus Empire, she began, her voice calm and measured. You executed a man of peace and science, believing it would weaken us. You did not understand who we are. You did not understand what you were taking from me. She paused, allowing her words to resonate. This is only the beginning. For every drop of innocent blood you've spilled, I will dismantle your empire piece by piece. As the message transmitted, Commander Rice approached her privately. General, may I speak freely? Ilara nodded. This victory was too easy, he said. The Empire's forces are supposed to be formidable. They are formidable against enemies who fight as they expect, Ilara replied. They've never faced humanity at war. Not truly. She turned to the viewport, watching as shuttles evacuated Imperial prisoners. The Empire made a fatal mistake, Commander. They executed my husband, thinking it would break me. Instead, they've unleashed something they cannot comprehend. Reports from across Earth's territories came flooding in. Civilians rallying behind General Voss, military enlistments skyrocketing, colonial governments pledging resources to the war effort. The execution of Marcus Voss had not weakened Earth's resolve. It had unified humanity in a way the Empire could never have anticipated. As the Retribution prepared to jump to its next target, Ilara stood alone in her quarters. Marcus's research journal spread before her. His final entries detailed his excitement about the scientific outpost that had sent the distress call, his hope that their findings might facilitate better understanding between species. "They didn't understand you," she whispered, touching the pages where his handwriting grew animated with possibilities. "But they will understand me." The Retribution's engines hummed as the FTL drive engaged. Their next target, the Imperial shipyards at Nexus Prime. The Empire had declared war not just on Earth, but on General Ilara Voss personally. They would soon learn it was the most catastrophic miscalculation in their 1,000-year history. Vengeance among stars. 3 more Imperial battle groups have surrendered, General. Commander Rice reported, his voice tinged with disbelief. That brings the total to 17 systems under our control in just 8 weeks. General Ilara Voss studied the galactic display where vast swaths of formerly Imperial territory now glowed with Earth's blue insignia. Each conquered system represented another step in her methodical campaign. A campaign the military historians back home were already calling the most efficient offensive in human history. "Have we located Grand Marshal Tyberix yet?" she asked, referring to the Imperial commander who had personally overseen Marcus's execution. "Negative, ma'am. Intelligence suggests he's retreated to the Imperial throne world." Ilara nodded, just as expected. She zoomed the display to focus on the heart of Arcturus territory. They're consolidating their remaining forces around their capital, preparing for a final stand. The bridge crew exchanged glances. 8 weeks ago, the notion of threatening the Imperial capital would have been unthinkable. The Arcturus Empire had dominated this sector of the galaxy for centuries, subjugating dozens of species, amassing technologies and resources that dwarfed Earth's capabilities. Until now. Lieutenant Chen cleared her throat. "General, we've intercepted a transmission from the Imperial Senate to their colonies. They're offering to negotiate." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. This was the objective they had been working toward, forcing the Empire to the table. Yet no one celebrated. They all knew their commander too well. "Send them my terms," Ilara said, her voice betraying no emotion. "Unconditional surrender. The dissolution of their military. Reparations to all subjugated worlds." She paused. "And the immediate surrender of Grand Marshal Tyberix and the Imperial Council responsible for executing Dr. Voss." Commander Rice approached her station. "General, perhaps we should consult with Earth Command before." "My terms are not negotiable, Commander," Ilara cut him off. "The Empire understands only strength. Showing mercy now would be interpreted as weakness." As Reyes returned to his station, Ilara's eyes fell on the tactical display where the next phase of her campaign was already mapped out. Marcus would have disagreed with her approach. He had always believed in dialogue, in finding common ground even with potential enemies. It was why he had volunteered for that fatal diplomatic mission, despite her objections. The memory dragged her back to their last conversation 3 months ago. They had argued in their home overlooking the Pacific. "The Arcturians invited me specifically, Ilara," Marcus had insisted, his eyes bright with excitement. "Their xenobiological research could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies communication." "It's too dangerous," she had countered. "Our intelligence reports suggest increasing hostility from their military caste. This could be a trap." Marcus had touched her face gently. "If we refuse peaceful overtures because of fear, we're surrendering to the inevitability of war. Someone has to take the first step." She had relented, as she always did when faced with his idealism. But she had insisted on a military escort, a compromise that proved insufficient. The communication panel on her command chair chimed, pulling her back to the present. Admiral Zhu's face appeared on her private screen. "The Security Council has reviewed your progress, General," he said. "They're concerned about the pace of your advance." Ilara raised an eyebrow. "Concerned that we're winning too quickly." "Concerned about the long-term implications," Zhao clarified. "We've received intelligence that several non-aligned systems are watching this conflict with growing alarm. They fear that we're simply replacing one empire with another." "We're liberating oppressed worlds, not conquering them," Ilara replied. The distinction may not be clear to outside observers. Zhou's expression softened. "Ilara, I knew Marcus. He wouldn't want this war to define his legacy, or yours." Her jaw tightened. "The Empire made this choice, not me." "Yes, they did," Zhou agreed. "But you choose how this ends." He leaned closer to the camera. "The Emperor himself has requested direct communication with you. Not with Earth Command, not with the President. With you personally." This was unexpected. In the rigid hierarchy of the Arcturus Empire, their God Emperor never addressed foreign military leaders directly. It was either a desperate ploy or patch it through, she decided. The screen flickered, and Emperor Xandar's ancient face filled the display. By imperial standards, he was relatively young, merely 2 centuries old, but the strain of recent defeats had etched new lines into his scaled features. "General Voss," he said, his translator rendering his complex language into flat English, "you have demonstrated your tactical superiority with impressive clarity." Ilara remained silent, waiting. "I wish to discuss the scientist, Marcus Voss," the Emperor continued. "His execution was a miscalculation." "A miscalculation," Ilara repeated, her voice dangerously soft. "Is that what you call judicial murder on fabricated charges?" The Emperor's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of discomfort in Arcturian physiology. "There is information you do not possess, General. Your husband was not executed on my orders, nor with my knowledge." Ilara had anticipated many possible approaches from the Emperor: pleading, threats, attempts at negotiation. This claim, however, caught her off guard. "Explain," she demanded. Grand Marshal Tiberix and a faction of military hardliners orchestrated the scientist's capture and public execution. They believed eliminating him would destabilize you, Earth's most formidable commander, and create an opportunity for military expansion. The Emperor's mouth formed what might have been an Arcturian approximation of a bitter smile. They clearly did not understand humans as well as they thought. "You expect me to believe the Imperial military acted without authorization?" Ilara's skepticism was evident. "I expect nothing, General. I merely offer truth." The Emperor's gaze was steady. "Your husband discovered something during his research, something that threatens not just the Empire's structure, but the stability of this entire sector. That is why Tiberix wanted him silenced." Commander Reyes had moved closer, listening intently. Ilara felt a cold certainty settling in her chest. "What did he find?" she asked. "Evidence that the ancient artifacts our civilization is built upon, the technology that allows us to maintain dominance, is failing. More than failing, it's becoming dangerous." Dr. Voss recognized the pattern where our scientists did not, perhaps because he brought an outside perspective. Ilara thought of Marcus's final transmissions, his excitement about anomalous readings from the Imperial core worlds. He had been on the verge of a breakthrough. "Your husband was not just executed, General Voss," the Emperor continued. "He was silenced, and now Tiberix and his loyalists have retreated to our ancestral vault with the remaining artifacts. They believe they can harness the destabilizing energy, use it as a weapon against your fleet. If the Emperor was telling the truth, this changed everything. Not just the war, but potentially the fate of this entire region of space. Transmit everything you have on these artifacts, and Marcus's research," Ilara ordered. "I want every scrap of data." As the information flooded into the retribution systems, Ilara reviewed it with growing alarm. Marcus had indeed identified a critical flaw in the ancient power sources the Empire relied upon. According to his models, catastrophic failure was imminent, and attempting to weaponize the destabilizing energy would accelerate the process exponentially. "If this is accurate," she said, turning to her science officer, "and Tiberix attempts to weaponize these artifacts, total system collapse, Mom," the officer confirmed. "Not just the Imperial capital, but potentially a chain reaction affecting multiple sectors." Ilara faced the Emperor again. Why should I believe this isn't an elaborate deception to save your empire? Because, the emperor replied, I am offering myself as your prisoner. My life in exchange for your help in stopping Tiberix before he dooms us all. Hours later, the Retribution led Earth's fleet toward the imperial capital, but with a modified objective. No longer was this purely a mission of vengeance. It had become a desperate race to prevent catastrophe. Ilara had confirmed the Emperor's claims through Marcus's encrypted research logs, which he had hidden within routine transmissions. It's exactly like him, she told Commander Reyes as they prepared for the assault. Even when facing execution, his primary concern was ensuring his research wouldn't be lost. The battle for the imperial capital was unlike anything Earth's forces had encountered before. Tiberix's loyalists fought with the desperation of zealots, while civilians and imperial moderates fled the impending disaster. Through it all, Ilara coordinated Earth's forces with cold precision, systematically dismantling the enemy's defenses and creating an extraction corridor to the ancient vault. When they finally breached the sealed chambers, General Voss herself led the strike team. They found Grand Marshal Tiberix surrounded by pulsing artifacts, their surfaces crawling with unstable energy. You're too late, human, he snarled, his translator barely functioning through the interference. Your husband died trying to prevent this moment. The irony that you will die witnessing it is satisfying. Ilara assessed the situation instantly. The artifacts were already beyond containment. Her team couldn't stop the cascade failure, but they could direct it. Evacuate all forces from the planet, she ordered through her comm. Prepare for emergency FTL jumps on my signal. Before Tiberix could react, she fired a precision shot, not at him, but at the control mechanism he had constructed. The artifact's energy surged wildly, but in a directed pattern that Ilara's understanding of Marcus's research had prepared her for. In the chaotic evacuation that followed, Earth's forces managed to rescue thousands of Imperial civilians and officials, including the Emperor himself. The Grand Marshal and his loyalists were not among them. From the observation deck of the Retribution, Ilara watched as the Imperial capital imploded, the unstable energy consuming itself rather than spreading to neighboring systems. A contained cataclysm, exactly as Marcus's models had predicted was possible with the right intervention. General, Commander Reyes said softly, joining her at the viewport. Earth Command is requesting your report. Tell them the war is over, she replied, her gaze fixed on the distant light of the collapsing planet. The Empire as we knew it has fallen. In the weeks that followed, a new galactic order began to emerge. With the Emperor as their guest rather than prisoner, Earth negotiated the transition of former imperial territories into a confederation of autonomous worlds. The militaristic hierarchy that had defined the Empire for centuries gave way to a more representative governance. 1 month after the fall of the imperial capital, General Ilara Voss stood before the Earth Security Council, officially tendering her resignation from military command. My work is complete, she stated simply when questioned. That evening, she returned to her home overlooking the Pacific for the first time since Marcus's death. The sunset painted the sky in colors he would have appreciated. On the desk in their study, she placed his recovered research journals alongside the medal Earth's president had awarded him posthumously. You were right, she whispered to the empty room. There was another way. The Empire had made a fatal mistake when they executed Marcus Voss. They had believed they were eliminating a threat. Instead, they had created one in his wife, Earth's most ruthless general. But in the end, it was his wisdom, not her vengeance, that had saved the galaxy. Ilara placed her military insignia beside Marcus's journals. She had fulfilled her promise to protect him, not his life, which had been taken beyond her reach, but his legacy. And in doing so, she had transformed not just herself, but the future of human relations with the stars.